right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
We got to the mid-90s again today, and while it was hot, it wasn't quite as humid, but we're just getting started. How hot we get this week and why the heat is not a long-term trend for us throughout the month of August.
Our top story, turmoil in St. Louis schools.
This chaos is unacceptable.
Tonight, the mayor weighs in on the state of the district amid budget concerns and a leadership shakeup.
Good evening, I'm Mike Bush. There's a leadership crisis for St. Louis Public Schools. The current superintendent is on leave, and now the interim leader is under scrutiny just weeks before the start of classes. 5 on Your Side's Laura Barczewski joins us live downtown, where the mayor, for the first time, is publicly calling for action. Laura.
Mike, this afternoon, Mayor Tashara Jones discussed her call to the Missouri State Auditor to look into funding mismanagement. And this all comes as questions arise about the interim superintendent and the current school board. On Friday, St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones sent this letter to Missouri State Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick, raising her concerns about St. Louis Public Schools' budget going from a surplus to a deficit and how some employment contracts, quote, escaped competitive bidding requirements and scrutiny of the SLPS Board of Education because they were under $50,000.
Given the news that has come out in the last several weeks about the mismanagement of funds for St. Louis Public Schools, I think it's important to have our state auditor look into it.
While the mayor has limited authority over SLPS, she also announced they'll be receiving proposals to appoint their own auditor to also look at some of these concerns.
We stand ready to help the school district do what it needs to do to get back on track.
Superintendent Keisha Scarlett was placed on leave after the school board says they had some concerns but could not be specific because it's a personnel matter. Millicent Borshade was named interim superintendent.
You know what? This whole situation is unacceptable. Our children and our families are in the middle of this, and school is about to start in a couple of weeks.
2 months before Borshade was hired by Scarlett to be the SLPS chief of schools last year, she was asked to resign from the Tukwila School District in Washington State and received a vote of no confidence from the teachers union. 5 on Your Side spoke with an anonymous former employee from Tukwila Schools who worked under her leadership. They said, quote, I was concerned and surprised when I saw Scarlett hired Borshade. SLPS school board member Emily Hubbard also publicly stated her concerns about Scarlett and the friends she hired, calling for the resignation of board president Tony Cousins and vice president Matt Davis, saying, quote, their illegitimate, reactionary, overreaching leadership of the district must end.
I think that is a bold and brave move on behalf of that school board member.
Mayor Jones says she wants to see SLPS thrive because their success or failure affects families, but it also affects the entire city. Reporting live downtown, Laura Barczewski, 5 on Your Side.
Within the last 2 hours, we learned about new issues at the City Justice Center. Jail officials tell us several inmates managed to slip out of their cells this morning and ended up in the common area. Guards had to use pepper spray to get the situation under control. This whole mess put jail processing on hold for more than 5 hours. This comes just days after a state audit revealed a number of problems at the jail, including staffing shortages and poor jail conditions. Now to a live look at downtown St. Louis. Temperatures cooling into the 70s after a hot day, and that 90-degree heat is sticking around for a few more days. Meteorologist Gary Frank joins us to show us what we can expect in the weather impact forecast.
Yeah, good evening, Mike. The heat is the story for us right now, the first week of August. It's still, we're holding on to the hottest period of the year still. And when we're seeing temperatures in the 80s at this hour, we know we're going to go outside and the humidity's up just a little bit at 10 o'clock at night. We're still in the 80s. But the big picture will show that things will change a little bit. We'll take you outside just a little bit. Look at the core of the heat building off to the southwest where you're still in the mid 80s, near 90. That's where the core of that hot air stays. However, it's close enough to the next couple of days that we're going to feel it. 84, our dew point now at 70. It's a little bit more humid than we've seen. That's why we have a feels like reading of 88. And with a calm wind into this evening, temps not going to change a whole lot. So tomorrow you will wake up and it is warmer. And what the weather impact this week is we have early week heat, but we're really drying out. In fact, hard to find a rain chance. We'll talk about the one rain chance perhaps and why we won't see this August type heat stick around for too much longer.
Well, the Missouri primary is just 2 days away, and the Democratic candidates for U.S. Senator are making their final pushes for the nomination. State Senator Carla May and Lucas Kunce are both vying to take on Republican Senator Josh Hawley in November. Earlier today, Kunce hosted a town hall in Florissant to build more support. Kunce currently has the bigger campaign war chest. This weekend in Southwest Missouri, Senator Carla May attended a Democratic candidate forum. On her X account, she says people from 11 counties attended. Mayor Tashara Jones endorsed May back in July. You can check out a full voter guide on KSDK.com. You can also find it by texting the word guide to 314-425-5355. New video tonight of a bear spotted in the Metro East. A viewer captured this video of the bear roaming near a neighborhood in Columbia, Illinois. Conservation experts are warning people not to feed the bear and to stay away. Others later found it up a tree. Police asked neighbors to leave the scene in order to encourage the bear to come down.
Two sides of the Holocaust colliding generations later in St. Louis.
I am so sorry.
Nobody ever said sorry to me.
Tonight, the powerful journey of reconciliation between a Holocaust survivor and the granddaughter of a Nazi engineer. And later, St. Louis's unique link to Olympic golf history.
Today is the last day that we averaged 90 as a high until next year, but not going to feel that way for the next couple of days. Why, even though we go down climatologically, we'll still be way above our average.
Making a Difference is sponsored by Midwest Bank Center.
What if your family history had a connection to one of history's darkest chapters? One woman's search for her roots led to an unexpected encounter bridging decades and continents. In tonight's Making a Difference report, a story that shows how confronting the past can illuminate the future.
Oscar!
Hi.
In the shadows of history, an extraordinary encounter unfolds.
Those are just kids right around your age, huh?
Oscar Jacob is a Holocaust survivor, and Suzanne Rico is a journalist.
We have pictures like that of our whole family.
The granddaughter of a Nazi engineer, part of a past she spent years trying to ignore.
I didn't want to look at it. I mean, that's the honest truth, is I was just like, yeah, no, don't need to go there.
But it was Germany's V-1 bomb, a harbinger of destruction, that would unexpectedly bridge two families across time. Robert Lusser, Suzanne's grandfather, was the brilliant mind behind the V-1's design, but his legacy would intersect with a young boy's fight for survival. At just 13 years old, Oscar found himself in the Mittelbau-Dora concentration camp. Upon arrival, a fellow prisoner advised him to lie about his age.
He says, tell them you're 16, 17-year-old. And that saved my life. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here talking to you, because 15-year-old and under, we all ended up in the gas chamber.
As it turned out, the 13-year-old was forced to drill rivets for the very weapon designed by Suzanne's grandfather.
And I had to produce between 450 to 500 in 12 hours, which was very tedious, it was very difficult, and if you didn't produce that much, there was punishment. From Dobro we went from...
Now, decades later, these two souls from opposite sides of history's divide would meet in an extraordinary journey of understanding and bearing witness.
Wow.
The only reason I have this picture...
For Oscar, the meeting stirred memories of a childhood stolen and a family lost.
It has been tough.
For Suzanne, it was a chance to finally confront her family's history and use her skills as a journalist and podcaster to shed light on the dangers of hatred.
You know, I wasn't even born in Germany. I wasn't even born for 20 years after World War II. But my family played a part in that. And I am deeply sorry for what that's worth.
What her grandfather did has nothing to do with her. I was very impressed that she is interested to know the truth, what was going on.
The truth Suzanne sought was complex. After the war, Lusser was among the German scientists brought to the United States to work on the space program.
My grandfather wasn't all good and he wasn't all bad. And he made some very good choices and some very bad choices. He fought for his family and for his children. He also built war machines for the Nazis. I'm so sorry, Oscar.
Nobody ever said sorry to me. And I love you for it.
In a world still grappling with the echoes of hatred, this unlikely friendship stands as a testament to the power of confronting the past.
Is there a better ending for my story than that? I don't think so.
A living reminder that even in the darkest chapters of history, there's always hope for understanding and the promise for a better future.
Thank you for allowing me in your life.
Suzanne told me that part of this journey in doing her podcast is to ensure that the lessons we learn from survivors like Oscar are not forgotten. Now to a live look at Lambert. Meteorologist Gary Frank joins us with that weather impact forecast with a look ahead to the work week.
Yeah, first time in a while as we look at just the next 5 days that our impacts are pretty low, all things considered. Maybe a yellow light the next couple of days just because of some added heat and humidity, but otherwise it's pretty quiet. Now we felt that heat today with 96 degrees, closer to 100, but not many 100-degree readings throughout the entire area. And you look at some of the 80s even in some cases in the Metro East, mid-90s as that heat continues to build from the southwest. One thing we have noticed is our humidity is starting to come up a little bit, and while it's not as high as it can be, it's noticeably more humid. That means you're not going to drop down as far when it's not dry overnight. That's what we're going to feel, where we're only going to drop down in the low to mid 70s as these dew points stay there. So you even have a feels like reading at night. So that's going to be something to watch out for tomorrow. That's going to be the only thing that we look ahead. Our overnight lows will start out in the low to mid 70s. Once again, the difference between this and the excessive heat and heat advisories of last week and our weather impact alert days are we don't start out at 80 for one, and two, our heat index readings are not quite as significant. Now, as we look at the position of this high, it's a little bit larger, more expansive, and more of the storms are north of us. We're not on the edge of this where we had those repeated opportunities for storms and severe weather. It seemed like every single day that crawls on the bottom of your screen. We're not going to have that this week. We've got heat that settles in for at least the first couple of days, and that's what's going to be the main focus of our weather. Let's start tomorrow. Temps feeling like they're close to 100 degrees. Like I said, not as significant. You're still going to notice it. And then by Tuesday, a little warmer, a little bit more humid. You see that feels like over 100 degrees. But watch Wednesday. That's non-existent. It feels like 85, and actually it's probably close to 85. And as a result of this pattern change, we'll worry about the first couple of days being on the warmer side. But look at the expected rainfall August 14th. And I'm not going to say it's not going to rain at all, but our rain chances are slim to none the next few days. Temperatures start off tomorrow, 98 degrees both days. And as that front passes, it's not out of the question that we'll see the potential for a shower. This is very brief and very light. As we go throughout the next few days, we go from the 70s in the morning to the 60s in the morning, and that's the main difference as we start off tomorrow. Like I mentioned, 89 is our average high. We're above it the next couple of days. We're pretty much below it the next 5 to 7 days, and we don't look like we're going to get too extreme or too wet over the next week.
It's time for On the Move. I'm Paul Cook, your traffic guy from Today in St. Louis. Guess what? More restrictions for you to know about along Interstate 70 in St. Charles County. Drivers should expect delays starting tomorrow morning in St. Peters around the Route 79 bridge at I-70. This is stage 1 and part of a large multiple bridge rehab project along 70, which will take place in 3 stages. The project will rehab 12 bridges right here along the second longest interstate in Missouri. The good news, all of the work is expected to wrap up in December. MoDOT says stage 1 restricts southbound 79 to 2 lanes across the bridge over I-70 and closes both lanes of northbound 79. Detours will direct you east on I-70 to Mid-Rivers Mall Drive. Continue westbound on I-70 and exit at Route 79. You could also try Mexico Road to avoid I-70 entirely. This particular closure is expected until mid-October. And now some good news for drivers. MoDOT has reopened the Bryan Road Bridge almost a month early. Stay safe out there. Paul Cook, 5 on your side.
Cardinals' resume is not so glitzy. A 500 team since the All-Star break. Look it up. And this was a lost weekend in Wrigley. I'm going to begin with a statement. There's a real chance that Mason Wynn could become the most popular athlete in St. Louis one day. This is a 2-run homer in the third. It went 400 feet. He's compelling, charismatic. Cardinals led it 2-0. In the fourth, look at Miles Michaelis' foot movement. Yeah, he engaged, then he switched. It's a balk. And Mike Tauchman scores. We're tied at 2. Michaelis was ticked. In fact, the very next pitch was his hardest throw all year, 97 miles an hour. Then he got hit around. Michael Bush, not related to the anchor, but hits ropes like our Mike, RBI single. Michaelis went 4 innings, gave up 8 hits and 4 runs. Then the Cubs started just showing off, home run after home run. They take 3 out of 4, and they win it 6-2.
This 5 on Your Side St. Louis City SC coverage is sponsored by Together Credit Union.
At City Park, FC Juarez in town for the League's Cup. And this is pretty. Edward Leuven on the corner kick, and Simon Betcher will get the goal. What a moment for the newly acquired former Billiken. But FC Juarez won the game in penalty kicks 2-1. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Only 5 golf courses in the world have hosted Olympic golf. The only course on U.S. soil is right here in St. Louis. Annie Krall hit the links with the pros at Glen Echo Country Club in tonight's Practice to Podium.
While Olympic golfers like Scotty Scheffler and Nelly Korda are teeing it up in Paris, Glen Echo Country Club can thank a different part of Europe and the Fallis brothers for their 18 holes, Club President Leonard Tenges says.
The 2 brothers who designed this course were from Scotland. They worked for old Tom Morris at St. Andrews. They migrated to the United States, ended up here, designed this course.
Now under head pro Michael Herbig, a former Mizzou Evans scholar who talked history and strategy with me.
Give me the lay of the land with this hole 15. This is a special one, but why is it so special?
The lake you see ahead of here, Chandler Egan, George Lyon, final match of the Olympics back in 1904. Chandler Egan standing on this tee down 1, hooks his tee shot left into the water.
Which you definitely don't want to do. No women played in the 1904 Olympics, but this hole cost Egan gold, getting its own plaque of infamy. A reminder for modern-day golfers of why hitting a good recovery shot is so crucial.
That's a beautiful shot.
Most of the holes are the original 1901 design. The equipment is certainly different, but the St. Louis pride isn't.
Even though it's been over 120 years, that spirit that those 2 brothers brought is still here on our grounds, and you feel it every now and then. Not all the time, but I think that's something that hasn't changed.
Reporting in Normandy, Annie Krall, 5 on Your Side.
Of course, after the St. Louis Games, golf took a 112-year hiatus from the Olympics. The U.S. has won 6 of 8 gold medals awarded. NBC's Olympics coverage continues next with Late Night in Paris, featuring the men's gymnastics rings final. Tomorrow at noon, more track and field with the 800-meter and 5,000-meter finals. And in prime time, Simone Biles will look to add to her Paris medal haul in the beam and the floor exercise finals. And there you have it. 5 on Your Side at 10. Don't forget to start your day with Today in St. Louis beginning at 4 a.m. Rennie Knott will report live from Paris. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.